And just like that, we are back with chapter 52 of the universe according to Mugsy. I am Mugsythecreator, and today is Tuesday, November 19th, 2024, and we have some things to talk about. I don't know how you are going to feel about the things that we have to talk about. Nonetheless, we must discuss them. And we might as well start. For any of you from the spiritual community, today is the first day of Pluto in a 20-year transition period known as the Age of Aquarius. Wow! Astrologically, this is a very significant day for a lot of people, but I understand astrology is not the predominant reason that people tune in to this broadcast. They want to know about the current events, how that comes from the culture, and how that really drives from their own consciousness. And right now, we live in a very polar world. This weekend was none less polarizing than the fight world. It would seem like there are two sides to what was once always looked at this masculine sport, which is beating the living pulp out of each other, boxing and mixed martial arts. And we got to see on the first night here, Friday, Mike Tyson go up against Jake Paul extraordinaire. I don't know what you want to call this guy. He's a social media influencer, but he's an entrepreneur. He makes music, maybe NFTs. I know they deal with crypto. You can't really pin down what these people are. And I'm referring to Jake Paul's fight against Iron Mike Tyson, who deserves a lot of respect, if in no other realm than the fight realm, especially boxing. But it would appear age has caught up with Mr. Tyson, because he did not come out and do at the age of 58 what most people assumed a former heavyweight champ would come out and deal the damage that he once did onto a naive, young, 20-something-year-old Jake Paul. And that's really what America was looking for on Netflix. But Netflix, you got it for free. So that should be your clue that it is not going to be anything of much substance. There is even a realm of people out there on the internet that believe that Tyson was pulling his punches due to some evidence they gathered by slowing down the fight and replaying it back and keying in on what some people are calling indicators on how and why he was pulling his punches, presumably for some monetary gain. Now, how could you hold that against him? Here's a guy who's made tens, probably hundreds of millions of dollars in his career, and who knows how much of that is left. How could you hold it against him if he was really just doing this to make some money? But I guess you could hold it against him if you believed there was any authenticity to the fight at all, which is why there's another group of people on the internet saying that that was actually a humiliation ritual designed to transfer some of the power Iron Mike has cultivated in the conscious space and transfer that over to Jake Paul, a younger generation. Now, I don't understand much about humiliation rituals, so I am not gonna sit here and pretend that I am going to be the one to explain those things to you. But I did see this Trump dance on Saturday night at the UFC where Jon Jones just rolled over Stipe Miocic, and at the age of 38, Jon Bones Jones looks unstoppable in the heavyweight division of the UFC. It is honestly quite frightening to know that one man, Jon Jones, exists out there in the world because I talk a lot of shit on these internet airwaves, and I'm trying to penetrate your consciousness specifically. So God forbid I ever get off the rails. It is humbling to know that there is a human being out there who just cannot be stopped. Like, presumably, you could hit him with advanced assault weapons and he is just going to continue forward and find a way to destroy your entire existence. Because what Jones did with a spinning back kick to the ribs, I believe it was the 5th time in UFC history that a fight was ended in that particular fashion. But it was insane to watch, and it was eclipsed. Like, if you were at that event, you weren't even talking about the fights and what Jones did, because what Donald J. Trump did, seemingly assembling a team of Avengers specifically organized because of all of the violations against the American public and what they have felt through the pandemic, through the last 12 years of cancel culture, beginning with the Occupy Wall Street movement and presumably ending with the entrance of Donald Trump, Dana White, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Dan Bongino, and a host of other cabinet hopefuls. RFK Jr., how can we forget to mention a Kennedy on this team of Avengers that has been assembled to demolish the deep state as it is currently constructed? Oh, that is the only thing that could shine brighter in this moment of Jon Bones Jones domination in the UFC. And when you compare and contrast that to the Tyson-Jake Paul fight, one that you paid for and gave you every ounce of your money in terms of competition, in terms of mixed martial arts excellence, and seemingly with this insight into the future of our country and what we have to be optimistic for. Versus the Jake Paul Tyson fight nobody asked for, nobody paid for because it came included with your Netflix subscription and turned out to be a snooze fest that at very best, is a gray area enough for people to speculate whether or not it was an embarrassment ritual designed to transfer power from one generation to another, and perhaps in a spiritual sense, something much darker, but I don't want to go there. I have a lot of respect for the right and the left and whatever moves us forward as a community of connected conscious beings, that whole collective consciousness that will be ushered in this new age of awakening, of this transition period from Pluto entering the age of Aquarius, which is how we tie all of this so neatly together in that nice little bow. What an amazing time to be alive. There has not been too much going on. I feel like we didn't hammer it home enough on the last podcast because it was such a special moment after the election on the Saturday, after that Tuesday, to see people out in the streets with their political signs celebrating what is to come politically. And I think that was really put under a microscope and on display and sent out into the living rooms of a lot of people around the world with the UFC display this past Saturday. Now, I tuned in, even though I knew exactly what I was tuning into, that Tyson fight as well. If not just out of some weird respect for Tyson, just to appreciate all of the entertainment, even if it was manipulative entertainment, that helped us pass time for so long and get us to this transition stage that should be evident to anybody watching now. Perhaps you don't like this structured deconstruction of the deep state and everything that this Avengers level cast of characters that has been assembled to try and return the United States of America to this picturesque version that people walking around in everyday life seem to be holding in their brain as this reality that they were all participating in. Now, in order to actually build that reality, to create it, first we must destroy. So for those of you that were just losing your mind, feeling like it's appropriate to scream into your cell phone and educate the rest of the population on how expensive it is going to be to take care of lawn maintenance next spring because we did not vote for Kamala Harris, who was all for opening the borders and allowing illegals in. seemingly there is a percentage of this country, the United States of America, whose biggest problem is worrying about lawn care costs next spring. Now, I know what segment of the population that is because new numbers came in I'm going to forget. But if you want to take a look at the statistics, I encourage you to go out to Twitter and follow Unusual Whales on Twitter, because the bottom 40% of income earners in the United States of America account for 20% of total spending. The top 20% of income earners in this country account for 40% of spending. That should be absolutely flabbergasting that we have not started murdering our neighbors, considering how little money such a large segment of the population is using to live in this country, presumably eat, clothe themselves, provide some sort of transportation to a job that affords them the ability to pay for these comforts, which we used to call the bare minimum of a society. And there is a loud segment of this country that feels that the best thing that they can be doing with their energy and their time is to be educating this lower class of society on the prices of things and how much they cost. It is quite some pickle we have gotten ourselves into in this country, but relax. Do not allow that to infect your consciousness, because it is the best time to be alive, because we have the ability to fix all of it. First, by just acknowledging it is out there and we are off. Boy, that was an open. That was an open to this conversation, this discussion about exactly where we are at in society, because it clearly feels like the energy in the room has changed. And I didn't feel too much of a need to tune in and really highlight what's going on in the current events for my audience, because there was nothing too much that really scared me, because in my heart of hearts, the election went as well as it possibly could have. Now, understanding reality the way that I do, that was unnerving to me. It was so frightening, because the deep state has won so goddamn always, as far as I have gone back in history, until the early 1900s. Now, that doesn't mean we as a society haven't made progress in some areas. I just find it hard to believe that one day the deep state just said, that's it. You guys won fair and square. You guys voted. That election was democratic. Yeah, we give up. You guys do what you want. In fact, invite in Elon Musk, who, let's return to this cast of characters, because even the Democrats losing the election should take some solace in the fact that most of Trump's cabinet used to be Democrats, including he himself, Donald J. Trump. It's like, wake up. Come to the party here and see that the people pulling the strings for what is now known as the Democratic Party are just a puppet. And they're not even saying the things that they used to say to signal to the people that they are trying to signal to that they are pretending to do something for you. And the American public still hasn't realized that fact yet. That's why when the Democrats went from the peace party to the war party, seemingly a lot of people didn't notice, but RFK Jr. noticed, and Tulsi Gabbard noticed, and Elon Musk noticed, and seemingly I don't know Dan Bongino's politics, so I don't want to include him there, but seemingly there's a large swath of the American public that did notice, and right now the Democratic Party is filled with people telling you you're a horrible person. If you notice that we used to talk about peace and now all we do is talk about war, and that's particularly relevant today as the Biden White House has decided to send long-range missiles to the Ukraine. And the Ukraine's leader, who once used to parade into Washington, D.C. dressed up like G.I. Joe and demand from the United States government in Congress that it was the United States' responsibility to arm the Ukraine to the teeth to defend all of democracy in a country that had itself suspended democratic elections in their own state. Whew! He has come out, Vladimir Zelensky, and proclaimed the Ukraine acts independently and not as a puppet of the United States of America. And we have in some way capitulated to him and his request for long-range missiles that can strike well within Russia. Why would he do that? Why would he do that when just last week world leaders were congratulating President-elect and former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, 45 and 47, who has already began to move forward with the peacemaking process, the same peacemaking process that Vladimir Putin agreed to just weeks into the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and we know all of this because of the reporting that was done during the beginning of the conflict. It is just an escalation at this time in the political cycle where all of populism has been working, and whatever remnants of a democratic country that we live in, even the people, the illegal aliens, which this was quite insightful. Here's a little detour. Even the illegal aliens in California were voting for Donald Trump, even though he is running on a campaign to explicitly deport them. Now, I don't know how prevalent this is, but I heard and I got good information that these people, deported. Yeah, I've been deported 5, 6, 7 times already. That's just a part of this game. That's just a cost of doing business if you want to sneak in illegally to the United States and reap all of the benefits that you would gain. But yeah, fuck the Democrats and everything they're doing to the oppressed American people. And if I, an illegal alien, can help you get out from underneath this oppression, then I will do my best to help. And those illegal aliens, they voted 6, 7, 8 times for Donald Trump. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that just crazy? We have now reached just this insane part of the cycle. And I, as you can see by me tuning in again and broadcasting for the first time in a couple weeks, I just can't sit here and be quiet about it. It is insane to consider that we discussed on this broadcast a coup d'etat that happened inside the United States of America and how much of the legacy media did not even cover it. A coup d'etat is when someone else seizes power of a government from inside, which is what asking the sitting president of the United States of America to stand down and not run for re-election when it is his express intent to do so, and rather gain the political power to do so by pressuring him with the 25th Amendment to remove him from power, as he is mentally unfit to sit in office unless he steps out of the Democratic election for his side. That is a coup. That went on in the United States of America, and nobody talked about it. We did here in the universe according to Mugsy. You can go back and listen to that broadcast. But this escalation of the war is seemingly much different. It is saying we acknowledge the game, we acknowledge the rules, and fuck 'em. Just like all the things that we have been doing, which is why people across the Department of Justice have now been signing with defense attorneys. Why? Why would people inside the Department of Justice be hiring criminal defense attorneys? Presumably, they know best because they are currently inside the walls of power, just how dirty this game can get. And they are now seeking protection from the current powers they were just levying against the American public. This escalation of the war is happening simultaneously at a time where many celebrities are deciding it's a good time to go on a world trip. Maybe get out into international waters while there is such volatility inside the Justice Department, where we are not really sure how things are going to fully shake out. For me, that's the only reason you run, right? The only reason you set up an election where it's illegal to ask for voter ID is because you intend to fraudulently affect that election. Right? That's there was a certain time where I was very nice to the American public, and I granted them a lot of leeway because I have been brainwashed so many times before. We're all human. But eventually, it no longer becomes being taken advantage of, right? If you refuse to acknowledge yourself as a victim, eventually it becomes a conscious choice where you enjoy the outcomes of the decisions that you're making. So I just want to make sure that we are all on board here, because if everybody understood what I just said about their idols, right? The people that they spend most of their consciousness in time with, listening to their podcasts, watching their movies, listening to their music. If you fully understood the gravity of what I just said, seemingly this broadcast that I'm doing right now would have a much wider audience, wouldn't you think? It is just, I don't know. I don't know what to do. How can I express the most love and empathy for you, specifically right now, person watching this broadcast? I don't know. It's right there in front of you, all of it. And this frustration is really the frustration that has just been driving at me for the last few weeks with this Zach Bryan, Brianna Chicken Fry, Dave Portnoy controversy. And I'm hoping this is going to be the last time that I talk about it, but I just want to make sure, because I was joking around about it the last time, that I'm very specific about what I'm discussing, because after listening to the last episodes of their BFFs podcast, they seemingly learned some lessons here, right? Brianna Chicken Fry, Josh Richards, and Dave Portnoy. They learned that this guy can't be trusted. It is indicative of much darker manipulative tactics that reflect a broken, weak individual, that being Zach Bryan. But at the end of what should be a journey where they learn that this manipulation is actually controlling people and their lives. And this NDA that Brianna Chicken Fry would have signed for Zach Bryan to go out and present to the public this image of himself as the victim is a literal weapon. It is a military-grade, psychological weapon of mass destruction. That destruction being the American or the public consciousness, their ability to understand and perceive reality in real time. So where I thought these three wise men would recognize this, instead, at the end of the conversation, they run to the polar opposite, another weapon of mass destruction, Taylor Swift, literally the opposite end of the spectrum. spectrum. How do you not get this dance that we are doing? This ping pong back and forth, this volatility, this herky-jerky that is designed to never allow you to see what's really going on. You, my friends, are what are being cultivated, developed into larger weapons of mass destruction. Dave Portnoy, Brianna Chicken Fry, Josh, whatever your name is, you three, and you're working at a weapons manufacturing plant called Barstool Sports. All right, that's what the media is. In today's day and age, it is the weapons manufacturing industry, because you control people's perceptions on reality. And if you can't believe it, then the people watching you damn sure could never believe it. So it's real important for us to stick some sort of lever or vice into your consciousness and utilize whatever fucking force that we can gain together from the friction of rubbing whatever brain cells you have left in your head to spark some sort of reaction that will open up your perception of what is going on in this world. So finally, together as a culture, we can move forward so that the current events I witness before me can be a little more happy and optimistic, and maybe the bottom 40% of our country will be doing a little more than 20% of the overall spending. This is what I have to deal with. I just spend so much time trying to ground myself. And in doing so, I realize that there is a gift in not seeing things, but seeing through things. That old Manly Hall quote. And the more you can see through, the more you can understand. That is why I firmly believe I have the best grasp on the present, the now. Current events, this matrix, all of the existence you see before you, before your eyes, which is a complete and total lie and fabrication from your consciousness to help you survive. It is a survival instinct. It is a survival tactic. And only when you actually integrate this understanding into your life and you start to perceive the invisible can you start to gain any traction in understanding who you are, where you are, and why you are here, which is really the only thing that matters. Who are you? What are you doing here? What are you supposed to be doing here? And why don't you get busy doing that? The most important thing is remembering. The most important thing is the most important thing, because if you forget that, you forget that we're all here to just love and experience. And each one of our individual conscious perspectives is so valuable to the overall collective consciousness, and only in that unification, that realization, that enlightenment, that each wave is a part of the ocean, can we come together and do anything at all. Never mind for good or bad and those judgments that just exist in your own mind. If all you are doing with your life is going out and chopping other people down, then how are we ever going to come together? Now, I understand that first we must destroy if we want to create, so perhaps that's what I'm doing. I'm destroying in my audience's mind any idea that they understand this reality and how it works, because I don't understand shit. All right, I thought I did. I thought I understood how it all worked, but eventually, you come to the realization that there's no possible way to understand, and you're a dummy. And that's the first day you start understanding, and only from that day and from that day forward can you start to open the perspective of your mind and really get to know this all. And some people want to call it God. Some people want to call it Donald Trump. Some people want to call it Kamala Harris. Some people want to call it feminism. There is a massive hole inside of our society. That is what happens when we've been brainwashed for so long. But only in the destruction of that consciousness can we climb out of that hole and create whatever it is we want to see that is our vision for the world. And the more people we can convince that our vision is the best vision, the faster we're going to get there, because the more help we have. And right now, I am in a garage screaming into the ether, speaking to no one in this present three-dimensional time space that I understand as a human. All right, I guarantee you that I didn't do this alone. I fucking guarantee you. I can't see invisible shit, but I know right now I'm not the only one doing this. I know that even you seeing this, you're gonna realize, holy shit, this guy's nuts, but one human being can't see the world that clearly. He must be tapping into some sort of fucking ridiculousness, and I am. And eventually, when you stop trying to look through your eyeballs, you are going to see it. Take back your consciousness. I love you. I'm out.